How's it going, everyone? Today I'm bringing you a tutorial about the stroke effect in After Effects, specifically with Photoshop layers, importing Photoshop files and then using the stroke effect on those to create these cool handwritten effects for text and graphics of any kind. So let's get into it. So first, the way to import Photoshop files into After Effects, where you can edit each layer individually, is to select editable layer styles when this pop-up menu shows up. You also have the option to merge them into footage, but that will be just one layer and you won't be able to edit all the Photoshop layers. So just make sure that's selected before you start. So the idea with this is to have an effect where the graphics are drawing on, where it looks like someone is handwriting them. And the way to do that is pretty simple. It's basically two steps. The first is to do what's called an auto trace of the Photoshop layers that you have. That's the way you actually create the masks that we'll write on later. So go ahead and select all of your layers at once. Go into the layer dropdown and click auto trace. It'll bring up this pop-up menu. Make sure you have 0 pixels selected before the auto trace so that the mask will be pixel perfect. And as long as everything else is set to the standard values that they have, that's fine. You can go ahead and click OK, and it will do it for all of them. Once it does, you'll see masks pop up in the comp window here. And then the next step is to go into the generate options and find the stroke. And to just add that to one of these, we'll start with the bottom one. Now in the stroke effect, make sure you have all masks selected and stroke sequentially. This option is especially important for text because we want the text to appear one letter at a time from left to right. If you don't have sequentially clicked, it'll just randomly generate the letters and it won't look as natural writing on. Then go ahead and go to your paint style and click Reveal Original Image. This will be the key option to create the effect that we're wanting. The brush size you'll figure out as you go, and I'll show you here. So once we have the original image revealed, click E on your layer to show the effect. And we're going to manipulate this end property here. You can also use the start if you want, but I'm just going to use the end for this. Click a keyframe wherever it is. Go a second later. So we're at 3314. Go ahead and just type in 3414 and click another keyframe. Now make sure your second keyframe is at 100%, and then the first one will be at 0. Once you have that, you can see that we have a little bit of a stroke effect. Looks nice, except that the line is way too small. It's not filling in the mask at all. So the way you change that is the brush size. So go ahead and make sure that you're at the very end so that it's showing exactly what it will be after the effect. And then just play around with the properties. Let's try 15. 15 looks pretty good, but I always like to make it as small of a number as possible and make sure it's just filling in all of the mask. That way when it writes on, it has this sort of cool doubling effect as it goes, as if you're basically making whatever you drew a little bit bolder. So 10 looks pretty good. And let's go ahead and just copy that onto the top layer here. Let's turn that back on. Important note here is that wherever your playhead is where the first keyframe of your effect will pop up. So if you have your playhead set in line with the other one here, since we want them to come on at the same time, go ahead and just copy the effect in, and then voila. You'll have it pop in exactly where your playhead was. So now you have this cool write-on effect for those outside boxes. And next I'll show you how to do it with the text layers that we have here. The text layers take one additional step because there's just so many masks involved. So when you go into the mask drop-down menu, you'll see all of the letters individually. And the process basically is selecting each letter and finding that in the layer here, and then bringing that to the top. And it looks like it's doing a pretty good job of that. But there is a shortcut to this. So if you select all of the letters in a certain word, it will show the masks grouped together in the layer panel. And then you just move it up and reorder it as a full word versus each individual letter. This is especially helpful for fonts like this where it's super blocky and basically the height is set the same for all of the characters, which the height is how the auto trace orders each of the masks inside. So if you have a very flowy font, it can be a little bit more tedious because the height is varied between the letters. But for fonts like this, it's super simple. Just select the entire word and then move it in. And for the most part, it should work. Sometimes I've noticed with curved letters like S's or O's, it will prioritize them because their pixels are maybe 1 pixel higher or half a pixel higher or whatever. But other than that, it's pretty streamlined. And that's the way you get the write-on effect for the text. Well, I hope you all enjoyed that tutorial. If you want to use the files that I was using in this video, go ahead and look into the description. There's a link there to download them. Go ahead and comment below, like, subscribe, all that jazz. I'll see you on the next one. Peace.